They said you were the best in the parsec.
Welcome to
Parsec Passion, a podcast about the Mandalorian. Today we're talking Chapter 5, The Gunslinger. My name's Bubba, and with me is someone whose name is already legendary. It's Catfish. Catfish, how you doing?
I am doing splendid. I wish I was in this episode to add something. Maybe it was me at the end. I do like capes.
Oh, man. Oh, if Werner Herzog, a.k.a. the client, was that mysterious figure at the end, that might lift the episode a bit for me. Ooh, what is my ranking? I don't want to say, Catfish, I want your ranking first. What is your ranking out of 10 for Chapter 5, The Gunslinger?
Well, I couldn't decide between the two. It was clear to me that the ranking should be on the double S scale.
Surly Stark, or what do you mean by double S?
No, well, I thought maybe Saturday Serial, but then I also realized that the more appropriate double S was Stormtroopers on Sticks.
Stormtrooper Sticks. It's the holiday treat that everybody loves.
It is really, I love the art piece. Really awesome. The episode less, I gave it 6.75 Stormtroopers on Sticks.
6.75, that might be the lowest you've given any episode.
It's for sure, and I believe I just couldn't do 7 again. Mm-hmm. So I just thought to myself, do I need to go a little bit lower? And this is why. Enough with the side quests. He should have already realized that he can't hide anywhere and he needs to do something else. So the constant hiding, it doesn't make any sense to me. Every planet he goes to where he thinks he's going to get away is wrong. He can't take Twota with him because people recognize him, even though he does expose Twota to the public. Mm-hmm. When he leaves Twota behind, Twota causes trouble. That's all good, but really, it's enough. It's 1 side quest is good, 2 is okay, 3 is too much already. It's time for him to, he needs to move on.
Let me jump in, Catfish, and say that my ranking is, wait for it, listeners, even lower.
No.
I'm going to give this episode 6, what I like to call double T's out of 10.
Oh, right, the double T. Wait, double T?
Well, double T, as you know, in the Star Wars galaxy means Tattooine twin, meaning that Tattooine is a twin of Earth. Tattooine is just like Earth. It has bounty hunters, it has smugglers, and it has D-bags. This character, Toro, I was like, I didn't know Tattooine was close to the Jersey Shore. Both feature sand. Oh, man, he drove me crazy, that character. I almost went with the double C ranking of cartoon clone because this episode was written and directed by Dave Filoni. Now, people in the Star Wars universe know that Dave Filoni was the showrunner of the very popular cartoon Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and Star Wars Rebels.
Right.
This episode was so much like that cartoon. And if you love those cartoons, I bet you loved this episode. If you had trouble with this episode, you're probably thinking this is really sometimes aimed too much for kids. What I mean by that is, yeah, there are people getting shot and killed. It's not truly aimed at kids, but they kind of have to show things so obvious. Like Toro was such a cartoon character about this is me, okay, now I'm making this turn, I'm going to turn evil. The plot line I really didn't like at all, but that is the type of plot line you see on those cartoons. Now, why does anybody watch those cartoons? Why have I watched them? Because they occasionally do have great moments or little twists, or sometimes the overarching story is good. But this show needs to get back to the overarching story, and I'm going to celebrate the good moments in this episode, but for me, tough episode. Only 3 left. I really hope it gets back to what I enjoy most. I'm being selfish. Other people may love this. I want it to get back to what I love most. That's the client. That's the Empire trying to get Baby Yoda. And the Mando having to be smart and resourceful fighting them rather than idiot D-bag of the week.
Yeah, I almost feel as if I need to rethink that maybe I was building it up because of things I thought it was going to be. Maybe, and things that really, it kind of set up in the first 2 episodes. I don't feel like I was completely inferring things that weren't there. But in other words, as I talked about last week, you can get away with this kind of stuff if you've got like 20 episodes and you got to build. But I mean, they are really doing a lot of, and I believe the technical term is dicking around for a show that only has 8 episodes, and who knows when we're going to get the second season of it. It feels like they're really slow in building this up, and maybe this show is going to be less than what we thought. Now, who knows? There was that big reveal at the end. Someone is on the tail of the Mandalorian, but on the other hand, like, we also know everyone in the universe is on the tail of the Mandalorian, so whoop-de-shit.
Listeners, if you disagree with us, we love that. We want to hear from you. Write to us on Twitter and Instagram at @PHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P, then the letters HQ for headquarters, at @PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, facebook.com/PHQ. If you agree with us and you want the story to move a bit more forward, we want to hear from you too. And before we even get to the episode, Catfish, I want to do a discussion point. For all these years, and many of our listeners, you know us because we hosted the Joffrey podcast where we would break down Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones was a weekly television experience like this is, but it also kind of happened around the world at the same time, meaning that if it was 9 p.m. Eastern Sunday night and 6 p.m. West Coast time on the United States, everybody was seeing that episode at the exact same moment. So this is a streaming show. It feels rare for a streaming show to come out with new installments weekly, but it's coming out because it hits at midnight Pacific in the United States. People watch this at all different times. Listeners, I want to know when you watch this, and I'll just go ahead and say this show is appointment TV, but the time is different for everybody. For me, I watch it around 7:30 a.m. every Friday. I wake up, get ready for work, watch the episode, then go to work. It's a real strange feeling. I'm enjoying it, but it's not like a nighttime show where everybody's on Twitter and tweeting about it, or everybody's on social media talking about it, and it's not all at the same time. So that's me. What about you, Catfish? How and when do you watch this show?
I try to watch it as soon as possible. This week I did watch it. I woke up early before I had to go to work, which is I had to walk the 100 feet to my home office. I have been working at home for longer than most people have had their jobs on a real job. I don't just stick around. So this week I watched it in the morning. I always go and try to watch it like 11 o'clock on a Thursday night. It's never available. They can't cut me some slack. Do it an hour early. I've always watched it on a Friday. I have never waited. I try to watch it as soon as I can.
Listeners, once again, we want to know. Talk to us. Tell us when you watch the show, how you watch the show. Are you still in your PJs, or are you up late after a Thursday night out having fun?
And honestly, Bubba, if I wasn't doing this podcast, I might wait until the rest of them are done, the rest of this season was done, just to watch them all in a row, which might help the serialness of the show. There's not a huge build on this show, so that's the problem. It's funny because in this age of streaming, there's a lot of discussion. What shows are better to binge watch, and what shows are better to wait on, and it feels like there are some that are better to wait. There's some shows that Ms. Catfish and I have been like, you know what? Let's set a night for this show, even though it's on Netflix, and let's watch it 1 or 2 episodes on that night. This feels like there might be a benefit to watching this all at once. For people who want to get a free trial of Disney Plus after The Mandalorian's over.
As long as they download every episode of our podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They must do that.
Now, let me say that we've had 5 episodes. It feels like in 3 of them, they moved the story forward in the most minor of ways. Episode 2, which I admittedly loved, it still might be my favorite episode of the season. Episode 2, really, if you remove the little scene where Baby Yoda reveals to the Mandalorian that he can use the Force, that's all you really needed to know from that episode moving forward. Last week's episode, Chapter 4, if you remove, okay, this is Cara Dune, she's an associate of his, that's kind of all you need to know, and maybe some of the facts he revealed about when he can and can't remove his helmet. And this week's, I'd be willing to bet you could skip this week's entirely and still be able to follow the story. Yes, the end of the episode, the part that I love, the 13 seconds where it revealed he's being tracked by this mysterious person, I loved it. But really, I'm not even sure you really would need that for the story going forward. As you pointed out, everybody knows people are after him.
Yeah, so I think that is super, super smart. The way to think about this episode is it essentially does nothing new. The only character that matters going forward is one that isn't even fully seen. It has a lot of the old beats. The only reason you'd need to watch it is to understand how in the next episode, how his shiny new armor is even more screwed up than it was before. I think by the end of this season, his armor might be more messed up than it was at the beginning of this season.
Amen. Well, Catfish, once again, listeners, we want to know what you think, how you watch. Do you enjoy watching it when you do, or do you take all weekend and just find a moment in the weekend to watch it? That's one of the reasons why, unlike some Mandalorian podcasts, we hold off and release our podcasts on Monday. That gives everybody a chance to have seen it over the weekend, and don't rush it out on Friday when the episode drops. I have to be honest, in a couple of weeks when an episode premieres on a Wednesday, so that Friday can be clear for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, we may not hold off till Monday to release the podcast then, but yeah, we got to do it right away.
One thing I want to say, Babu, because people are going to realize as we start talking about this episode, that at the beginning, there's a lot that I'm super excited about. But I think the analogy I want to make is this episode was kind of like cotton candy to me. I was like, oh, this is great, and this is great, and this is great. And then by the time I got to the end, I was like, yeah, but that was kind of empty.
Well, there go our sponsorships from cotton candy industry. Thanks a lot, Catfish.
Yeah, exactly. But just to let you know, we picked up a new one. For some reason, Peloton wants us to sponsor them now. They want us to sponsor them. They need the help.
Right. They're like, our name's not out there enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, let's recast the Peloton commercial with characters from The Mandalorian.
I love it.
If he gives that bike to Cara Dune, how bad is he injured? Like, is he ever recovering? Can Beskar Steel protect him?
And that is a great question.
Listeners, we do have a bunch of your feedback, which we're going to get to a little later in the episode. I do have to point out, we have no new podcast reviews that I could find this week. Tears.
Oh, man.
No.
Oh, no.
Listeners, we are going to give away a Mandalorian prize of some sort at the end of the season to one of you wonderful listeners who have given us a written review either in the Apple Podcast Store or Stitcher. I'm not sure, I haven't found if you can leave reviews on Spotify, but on any podcast app, Google Play, if you leave us a review, your name will be entered into the drawing, and we aren't doing this for money, obviously, with all our curse words and terrible jokes, but we are doing it because we want to talk to you guys, and if you're helping us out and giving us feedback and or giving us written reviews, we want to pay you back with some awesome Mandalorian gifts.
All right, but now, Bubba, this is late-breaking news. I actually see that since you've been paying attention, we got two more actual written reviews.
What?
On Parsec Passion, that's right.
This is like a twist at the end where the bounty hunter comes up to Fennec's body. Wow.
All right, so I'm going to read them both since you're not even aware of them.
Oh, can't wait.
Someone named CJG Man 67
Like who?
said, 5-star review, said, what more could you ask for? Said, this person, who I'm totally not, is totally not me, said, this is a funny podcast, and it comes with a free gift. Bonus content, what may or may not be a 13-year-old channeling Andy Kaufman. I have spoken.
Now that is a very positive review.
That is a positive review. And then we have Atris, or ATRVS.
Oh, yeah.
ATRVS again, long live Catfish and the other guy. 5-star review. He says, Atris again, long live Catfish and the other guy. Also is a spoiler for season 17 of The Mandalorian. When Mando takes off his helmet, it will be King Joffrey. A much more wiser and mature, well, he's perfect to begin with, but now super perfect, and will then start his rise to be the bestest emperor of the galaxy. Question, who will join him in his quest to purify and make great again the Empire? Hope that is not too many spoilers. Thank you.
Wow. Man, I'm on cloud 9. Thank you for such a wonderful review. Heck yeah.
Good. Bubba has come back from the ledge.
Well, Catfish, let's get to it. The Gunslinger. Is that referring to the Mando? Is the chapter title referring to Toro? Or is it that mysterious final person who we will debate who that character might be at the end of this podcast. Who do you think the gunslinger is, Catfish?
Wow. It's going to have to be people at the bar, because I did not see enough gunslinging.
Guns were slung and then thrown and dropped. Put down your gun. So that's how they were slung to the ground. Yeah, I assume it's just the idea that this is a Western. In a lot of Westerns, you occasionally do see people going out into the wilderness to catch that wanted criminal. So that's a very kind of Western theme. I know a big debate going on right now is this show based on samurai movies, or is it a samurai story or a Western story?
Now, the one thing that continues here and is reinforced that is sort of puzzling to me goes against, I think we all assumed, and maybe that was our fault, we all assumed going into this that the Mandalorian was going to be a badass. Would you say that's what you assumed?
No, that's what I assumed. And that first scene in the first chapter really made him look like a badass.
Yeah, and episode after episode reinforces that he either A, has good friends, or B, gets super lucky. And so I feel like that's kind of taking away from some of my enjoyment from it as well. I mean, I enjoyed the humorous stuff too, and humorous stuff can happen, but at some point, he needs to be a badass, right?
Unleash the beast.
And maybe that's going to happen, but it also didn't feel like they set up this season to be like how the Mandalorian becomes a badass. So it confuses me and takes away from my enjoyment that he's not, that he lucks out. For example, we start off with an awesome space fight.
No, dogfight, baby, in space.
Yeah, where the Mandalorian ship gets hit about 37 times. And then
scratched.
He gets scratched.
Carbon scored a little.
Needs a little tune up, and then he pulls the old break, shoot, one shot disintegrates the other ship. So this is not about him being awesome. This is about him having superior firepower and a nearly indestructible ship.
That other ship was piloted by a bounty hunter who, in the credits, we find out the bounty hunter's name is Riot Mar, M-A-R. Riot, R-I-O-D, Mar, M-A-R. Riot Mar. What did you think of R.I.P. Riot Mar?
I mean, first of all, I'm a little concerned because those are my safe words.
Oh, come on. You have no safe words.
That is absolutely true. Despite the fact that the other guy steals his line, and then he says clunkingly, "That's my line." That was not as triumphant as I think they wanted it to be.
The Mando needed to deliver it with a Schwarzenegger accent. "That's my line."
Yeah. Or like Werner Herzog.
"That's my line."
Yes. That is better. That is so much better. I was excited. I thought it was cool. It's just the fact that, again, maybe if when Mando had gotten into a better position, it had been a little bit more, if they'd kind of crossed each other, if it wasn't just him getting pot-shotted and then switcheroo and boom, it's over. I felt like the fight was a little anticlimactic and not as exciting as it could have been. What about you?
Well, I don't think it was anticlimactic for Riot Mar. For him, it ended with a bang. But anyway, yeah, I thought it was okay. Because we jump into the episode and we're already in this fight, I just knew, okay, the Mando is not going to get blown out of the sky.
Right.
And so there was no way it could have too much tension in it. But it sets up, I got to get the ship repaired. Hey, where are we going to go? Where are we near? Where we're near? If there's a center in the universe, this is the place that's farthest from it, a.k.a. the center of the Star Wars universe, Tattooine. And this episode, when you talk about callbacks, homages, Easter eggs, it's jam-packed with so many that I'm going to try to give them all, listeners, but just know,
oh, man.
Know it's going to be tough. So, very beginning, when the Mando ship flies over Tatooine, the distance, not the Mando ship, but the distance of the planet and the two moons, that's a near identical shot to the opening shot of Star Wars when the Rebel blockade runner is flying over Tatooine and the Star Destroyer is behind it. Then Mando flies over the cliff where Obi-Wan, C-3PO, R2-D2, and Luke first looked down on Mos Eisley. Then he flies over the area that they saw when they looked at Mos Eisley. Then he doesn't go to the exact same hangar bay. The Millennium Falcon was in Docking Bay 94, and he flew to Mos Eisley Tower, pointed him to Bay 35. But boy, this is so much A New Hope, it's ridiculous. And then once he gets off his plane, who does he run into but characters from the prequels, specifically from The Phantom Menace? These pit droids, which were helping out in the pod race back then, they're up to their usual wacky stuff here. Oh, callbacks to familiar stuff. I like the pit droids. How do you feel about those pesky critters?
I thought they were funny. There was a bit that went by really fast that I had to watch a couple more times. That is when Pelimoto is like, should we fix this ship? They disagree. The three robots have different opinions about it.
Yeah.
And so if you miss that, you should watch it again because it's too fast. But some of them are shaking there's disagreement. There's some yes, no, sheepish. That's pretty funny. I thought the funny bit at the car repair. I wrote down the woman is funny, did not realizing that was Amy Sedaris. I thought that whole bit was funny. I enjoyed that bit. He apparently, even though he's disdainful of Imperial credits, they at least put a hold on the bay, on the docking bay.
They still buy stuff. Isn't that what my boy Grief said a couple episodes ago?
Yeah. And Pelly mentions it later on when he's like, no droids. I'm like, how tough can it be to fix a ship without droids? I mean, my God.
Right, throw Pelly a bone.
Yeah, no, well, not that kind, but some kind.
Throw Baby Yoda a bone. We know he likes those.
Yeah, somebody. I mean, it was really... I understand he doesn't like droids, but, there's a lot of stuff I don't like that is like, well, that's its function. So I still, whatever. You got to make some consideration for a ship being fixed in a day or 3 months.
Right. It's like me. When I order everything, I'm like, no onions. So a couple things. You mentioned Amy Sedaris, who plays this Pelly Motto, who a lot of people online are saying her look was a bit similar to Ripley's look with the brown curly hair and the leather jacket. Amy Sedaris, it feels like they're bringing on a lot of comedians on this show. In the first episode, we had SNL's Horatio Sands as the blue alien who Mando brings in. We had Brian Posen, who drove the ship out. We had the two guys last week from the village. They're very funny on some other TV shows, who offered the Mando money to come guard their village. Here we have Amy Sedaris, and to me it feels like they're hiring a lot of funny people, but it's almost like they're not giving them funny lines. They're telling funny people, hey, make this funny on your own. And I think that's kind of tough. I thought Amy Sedaris was okay, but it wasn't like she was working with A material out there.
I completely agree. She had to just make it funny with her personality. And I also feel like, though, strangely, is that kind of character could have been done even more bizarre. And I believe that Amy Sedaris could have done it more bizarre.
Oh, yeah.
But so I think it's even worse than what you're saying. They're saying, here, funny people, do this and make it funny, but don't make it too strange. So, I feel like they're handcuffing them both with the dialogue and the direction.
I completely agree. She insults the Mando, calls him a womp rat, which... Womp rats are really rough in the Star Wars universe. I think one appears later in the episode. But what's another good Star Wars insult? I'd rather kiss a Wookiee. That's a good one.
I know. That's a good one.
Hey. Hey, now.
There is a great, what I assumed was an insult later on this episode, which is my Mandalicious line of the week. So I'll pitch that when it comes. One of the greatest insults in the history of the Star Wars universe.
Okay, I am going to pitch this as a Grief's Beef, one of my nominees for this week's Grief's Beefs. And if you're a new listener, Grief's Beefs are where we name something about the episode we really didn't like and or something that upset Carl Weathers. So my Grief's Beefs is with the Mando himself. He keeps just leaving Baby Yoda behind. You stay in the ship. Baby Yoda is a baby, Twodo, we like to call him because he's a tween, because he's 50 years old. He knows stuff. He knows how to lower the ramp of the ship and get out. Dude, what are you doing, Mando? Be a better parent.
Yeah, he's sort of in a kind of a pickle here, but not really that much of a pickle, because he could say to himself, well, I don't want to leave him behind, but also I don't want people to see him. but it's pointless. Anybody who's looking for Twoda has a description of the Mandalorian. So he should bring him with him everywhere. The only problem is that would continually put Twoda in danger. But on the other hand, I am all day more video of Twoda walking because it is amazing. Sipping tea, doing whatever. Yeah. You can't leave him behind. It's tough to take him. But he knows by now. No leaving Twoda behind. Twoda's gotten out of all kinds of things.
Right. I wonder if that's setting up that maybe the bad guys recapture Baby Twoda, and then Baby Twoda just escapes on his own in the future. It's almost like, I don't need any more help.
Yeah, exactly.
So Mando walks through Mos Eisley, the first real city, the first real town we ever saw in a Star Wars movie back in Star Wars A New Hope. And people are pointing out that this is less populated. Is it possible that with the Empire falling, less people want to be out in the middle of nowhere away from the Empire's grasp? But it seemed a little empty.
Well, maybe it's empty because a lot of the people who were formerly living there are now heads on sticks.
That was a shot in the trailer. I loved it as a shot in the trailer. I love it in this episode is showing what kind of outlaw place this is. Of course, it is a bit undercut by, as soon as we see those helmets on the spikes, those Stormtrooper helmets, it cuts to Pelimoto playing sabacc with her pit droids. And this is another, you really got to watch and see. People say that the pit droids are sharing cards and cheating in the scene if you really pay attention. I love it.
Nice.
Now, that's when they discover Baby Yoda. Peli and the droids do. Meanwhile, Mando goes to, of all the gin joints in all the cantinas throughout the universe, you had to step into mine, the famous Mos Eisley Cantina. Now under new management. It used to be droids weren't allowed in. Now droids run the place. Hello.
Oh, man. They come up here, they're taking our jobs.
This droid, these two droid bartenders, we had seen this type of droid before. It's known as an EV droid. The first one we saw was a droid called EV-9D9. It was in Jabba's palace back in Return of the Jedi, the first time we saw one of these droids. And I think there's one at the new Star Wars Galaxy's Edge theme park. And he's operating the bar. We see a R5 unit roll by. And then who's sitting at the infamous Han Solo booth but a character who I just really could not stand, Toro. And I think he's named Toro because he's full of bull. What did you think, Catfish, of this young bounty hunter wannabe?
First of all, these names, I mean, come on. I didn't think of bull. I thought of sushi. Like, this is like if you go to a sushi restaurant, you're like, you know what I'll have tonight? I'll have the Toro Calican. I'm in the mood for something a little bit spicy. Yeah, I mean, he definitely is a certain type. We've talked about how they're pretty much, on one hand, I'm complaining that The Mandalorian isn't what I expect. And on the other hand, I'm complaining that we're seeing just a lot of very stock characters. So I guess I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. But not a huge fan of his. But also I realized, and maybe I shouldn't have, but we've seen a lot of characters that we like and we know we're going to see again and we're looking forward to seeing again. I thought to myself when I first saw him, all right, well, I won't need to worry about this guy past this episode. So.
Oh, poor Toro. We hardly knew ye, but we still knew ye too much.
Yeah. He says to Toro, because Toro says, look, I got a bounty. I don't care about the money. You can have the money. I just want to get into the guild. And the Mandalorian's like, if you go after her, you won't make it past sunrise. And I thought to myself, by himself, neither will the Mandalorian.
You think Beskar not only protects you from Bastard blasts, but it also protects you from both of Tatooine's sons? Youch.
Well, I want to talk about, there's stuff I want to talk about later on when they actually get out onto the desert, which I think we're almost at, right? So
right. I want to diss Toro some more, if it's okay.
Yeah, I'd also like to mention some weird things.
In the first episode of The Mandalorian, I mentioned Dr. Pershing wearing these eyeglasses, and I'm like, have we ever really seen eyeglasses before in the Star Wars universe? It felt a bit jarring. But to me, Toro's earring felt a bit jarring, and I want to go into a little Star Wars lore to explain why. There was never any jewelry, accessories like this you would see at any Star Wars film. And the late, great Carrie Fisher, the princess in general for all of us, she famously, before The Last Jedi, went to the director, Rian Johnson, and he tells the story this way. In rehearsals, Carrie grabbed my arm and told me with great urgency that we needed, quote, space jewelry. I thought it was a fabulous idea, so we gave some to her in The Last Jedi. That's from Rian Johnson. So we haven't seen a lot of things like earrings and such in these movies until The Last Jedi. And now that Toro's rocking one that he got on spring break, man, it's tough. And then his accent. This is not fair to say. People have different accents. People can make fun of my accent. But I found his accent very jarring. Like, okay, where's this guy from? What planet is he from? Let's have the next Death Star point at it.
Well, he might be from Tattooine, but he's just from the Jersey Shore part of Tattooine.
And this actor, I saw a lot of people online, including our good friend Holly Hunt Pants. A lot of people have been saying, oh boy, he's real attractive, real attractive. His attractiveness didn't make up for how much he annoyed me. Now, listeners, if you love this character, once again, don't unsubscribe from the podcast. Write us and tell us what you liked about him. And there were moments in this episode I liked that we're going to get to in a bit, but I'm just going to keep hammering poor Toro Calican. He was tough for me.
Well, you know what I found out about Toro? I don't know if you're aware of this, but he's Bobby Cannavale's son.
I kind of knew the moment he opened his mouth. He sounds just like his dad.
Did you? Was it? Well, if it wasn't for the mouth opening, it was also the eyebrows.
Oh, yeah. No, he does look like his dad, too. So,
yeah. And
we love his father. His father's been great in a lot of things, but I just had trouble with this poor guy.
Okay, so I'm going to bring... Are we out of the desert now? Because I want to talk about the desert.
Well, as we get to the desert, because Toro, he wants to get in the guild, man. Mm-hmm. He has a puck on the assassin Fennec Shand, who's been on the run since the New Republic put all her former employers on lockdown. Love it. Love it. The Mando wants the tracking fob. You know, one of the things I'll tip my cap to Toro for is he knew that, or he suspected, even though we know the Mando's kind of an honorable guy, he thought, if I give my tracking fob to this guy, he'll go get the reward and I'll get nothing, so he smashes the tracking fob. I like that moment. And that gets us to the desert. Sorry.
The only other thing is, and this wasn't a big problem that I had. It wasn't something I thought about until just now. But at some point, we have to question, how long does it take for things to get around the universe? Mm-hmm. Because also in an awkward fashion later on, that Toro is immediately convinced, without any further information, that
by his prisoner.
Right, by his prisoner. So I don't know whether that makes him dumb, but to get rid of the prisoner and go, okay, I'm going to go with Mando, and not knowing whether the prisoner is lying or not, that's stupid. But also at a certain point, you have to say to yourself, why isn't word getting around about Mando? This is a big deal.
Well, this is one of those things that we haven't really learned much about through the Star Wars movies or sagas. There's a lot more of this in the cartoons and expanded universe materials, but in the main movies and sagas, it's not like you've ever really seen how news is disseminated. You've seen a lot of communication from people, one person to another person, but you haven't seen the equivalent of Twitter, the thing they call the HoloNet in the Star Wars universe. We haven't seen anybody saying, "This just in, a bounty hunter dressed in Mandalorian armor steals a prize, breaks the guild's code. Here he is. On the lookout, folks." There's no Baby Yoda alert in this universe.
Oh, so then they go out into the desert, and there is more fan service out in the desert, mm-hmm. in the form of two things which we have seen before in the desert.
The infamous Banthas, of Bantha milk fame, that we saw in Star Wars A New Hope, as well as, don't call them sand people, they like to be called Tusken Raiders. What did you think of them, seeing them again, Catfish? Were you happy to see more familiar things in an episode filled with familiar Star Wars sights and sounds?
I was happy. I was happy to see it. Just it kind of puts us in the universe. I do like tangentially being in the universe, but not dealing with some of these other things. I mean, much like a show that I'm really enjoying and you're not, The Watchmen, I feel like they're brilliantly putting it in the universe, in the Watchmen universe, involving some of the things from the Watchmen universe, but telling a completely different story, which I find fascinating. So I like this here. The only thing that, and maybe I only noticed this because I was involved in something like this. There was a movie I did a long, long time ago, straight to video with Val Kilmer, called Conspiracy. And just like Mando and Toro, I was out in the middle of the desert with nothing taller than 6 inches around me for miles. And yet also I got snuck up on by somebody. Which makes zero sense. How do you sneak up on somebody when there is nothing to hide behind? I don't care how camouflaged you are. You can't sneak up on somebody in the desert.
Well, they walk in single file to hide their numbers. Okay, oh, man, Catfish, sure. I love this.
Okay. I mean, it's a funny bit, but it just does not hold up. But at least they meant that to be a funny thing. In the movie I was in, it was just bad. But that's because the movie was bad.
Oh, now, come on, listen to me. Was it Val Kilmer? I forget. Was it Val Kilmer who snuck up on you in the desert?
Yes, Paunchy Val Kilmer was supposedly a special forces kind of ninja. So
right. Well, your fight with him later on in that great film is one for the ages. Listeners, be sure to check that out.
Please do. And if you do, I apologize in advance. Now, the other thing, that kind of funky thing that happens here, and it's going to relate to later on, is Mando's outfit is amazing.
Yep.
I love it. And I don't know who they got to move in it in the desert. I assume it wasn't him. Maybe it was him. It just made it look so awkward for him to move around in the desert in that outfit. It doesn't just look hot and uncomfortable, but like this short shot of him like running on the dunes, I was like, oh, he is not going to be elegant or quick in here, despite the fact that later on he covers like 500 yards in like 10 seconds.
Yes, well, Catfish, there's some real-world physics to this. It's tough for anybody in any outfit to move quickly in sand, but you're right. Put him in that Beskar, forget it. He's like, a little help, I'm sinking here.
Yeah, it just looks, I mean, that one shot, I imagine they sort of agonized over it because it does actually look funny. And I don't think they wanted to look funny, but didn't that like...
As he's scrambling up the dune, yeah, that was a tough look.
Yeah.
You know, I want to say a couple of things. First, when we saw the Tusken Raiders and he communicated with them, for half a moment I thought, just like in the Solo movie where we saw Han Solo try to speak in the Wookiee language, I thought we were going to see the Mando try to go, you know, speak in the Tusken Raider language. And I wanted there to be some sort of conversation about, you know, it's been 30 years, but we're still looking for this guy, Little Annie, who slaughtered our village all these decades ago. It didn't happen, but I did love, you're talking about Mando running on the sand dunes. I did love a moment, it reminded me of No Country for Old Men.
Okay.
They're high on a bluff, and they're looking down, and they're seeing that dewback just ambling along, dragging a dead body. To me, that reminded me so much of in No Country for Old Men, when Brolin is looking down at the terrible violence down below, and he's like, is there anybody there? Is there anybody there? The Mando sneaks down, see it's a dead bounty hunter who had a fob, and then, of course, Fennec Shand, the bounty hunter, and the new character who I actually like the best, R.I.P. Fennec Shand, she was using it as a trap. If anybody goes to that, she's just going to hit him with her blaster. Loved
I'm not sure why she didn't pot shot him a little bit earlier. It wasn't clear to me that like she didn't have a good shot at him. Maybe that is the case. Mm-hmm. It may have been better if they sort of showed a shot from her point of view earlier, so we know that he was in danger before he got shot. One where she's kind of seeing only part of him hidden.
Hidden behind the dewback, yeah. Like if just the animal was in the way.
That would have been a good shot to kind of let us know. I don't know that like, I think the trade-off between like giving up the surprise for feeling like he was in danger would have been a better trade-off.
True. Now he survives because of this Beskar, and this is going to bring up another nominee for my Grief's Beef of the episode.
Tell me.
how many Star Wars films have we had? How many ships have we seen? Everything should be made out of Beskar. Now, I know the in-universe explanation is it's very rare. It came from the moon of Mandalore, I believe. But give me a break. Why are stormtroopers wearing anything but Beskar? Why didn't Darth Vader's suit get made of Beskar? Why isn't my ship made of Beskar? People, come on.
I think it's the same answer behind people who stupidly say, why isn't the entire plane made out of the black box material? It's just too expensive. That's all. They're letting us know how great it is. At a certain point, somebody's going to have to shoot for the soft spot. But like I said earlier, I mean, I don't care how good the Beskar is. This stuff is going to start to look janky. And I look forward to him looking jankier at the end of this season than the beginning of this season.
Now, did you like Toro realizing, he's like, wait, I don't wear any Beskar? Nope.
Yeah. That's a good bit. The other good bit is, I mean, even though I think it could have been a little bit funnier, was he's asleep. He pretends to, Toro is like, I'm going to shoot you. He's doing the whole young gunslinger quick draw thing. And then Amanda's like, all right, you done now? Let's move along.
Yeah, I like that. Because I've been so tough on this episode, I want to keep mentioning things I like. I thought the 2 speeder bikes driving across the desert in the sunlight or night. Yeah, I mean, it was really nice. And then they have to take this little break till nighttime because of another great Star Wars callback. The Mando says, she has the high ground, which goes back to Revenge of the Sith, where Obi-Wan and Anakin have battled across a million things, including a lava river. But suddenly, because Obi-Wan is suddenly up on this little ridge, maybe 4 feet above him, he has to say, okay, Anakin, it's over. I've won. Wait, what? Now, another thing, I actually enjoyed it, but it reminded me a bit of Rick and Stark when Mando and Toro drive their speeders towards Fennec, the assassin, and they're shooting off their flash charges. They did pretty much go in a straight line. She's trying to snipe you. How about zigzagging a bit, Mando?
Yeah, and how about kind of separating so that if she slightly misses you, she still doesn't have a chance to hit the other person?
Well, that may have been if his plan was for Toro to get hit, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, that would have been good. I don't know why he cares about Toro.
So the Fennec Toro fight, so she blasts Mando's speeder, he flips off it. That's gotta hurt.
Right, so quick note here. So now he is without a speeder on the ground a very, very long way from the two of them.
You mean Mando, yeah.
Yeah, Mando. But he makes up that distance impossibly fast.
True. Maybe we didn't see it and he bought that jetpack that he was saying, I need one of those. Nice. That's good. So Toro and Fennec fight in the dark. And for me, I thought the dogfight was okay. I thought this flash, the flash grenade, the flash charge was a fun thing. But even this fight, this show is kind of based around an action show. The fight between Toro and Fennec really didn't set any new ground for me. The only thing that happened was the Mando comes and saves Toro, which of course I was upset about.
I mean, you might say finally the Mando saved somebody else rather than someone saving him. But the honest truth is, once again, without Toro, Mando can't. He won't be able to do this alone.
Mando comes up and sees them fighting, and he says to Toro, nice distraction. And I think to myself, yeah, that's what somebody would call this episode, a nice distraction.
Oh, zinga, zinga, zinga.
But then, okay, well, what are we going to do? We don't have any choice. We only have one working speeder now. There are 3 of us with our prisoner. One of us has to go get the dewback. Kid, you're an idiot. I'll go do it myself. And that sets up kind of my favorite moment in the episode, and that is the infamous twist. When did you see Toro throwing out one bounty to go after another? When did you see that happening, and did you like it?
First of all, at some point, the Mandalorian is going to have to learn, do not leave young people behind. He does it with Toro all the time. He does it here.
With Toro. He leaves young Toro behind.
Yeah. Also, considering how much Toro found him, I just don't. He knows how callow Toro is. Forget him as a character. Forget whatever performance issues you had. Think of the character. He's a young guy who wants to get in the guild. He doesn't know anything. You cannot leave him behind.
With a deadly famous assassin? No.
That just can never happen. The only reason it happens is for this. So that makes zero sense to me. Even if you don't think he's going to betray you, this kid's going to get suckered by Fennec. It just doesn't make any sense. So, also, I can see sort of Toro. What she says makes sense, but you have to be really, really thick to not think 10% this could be true, 90% I'm being suckered here.
Well, that's if you're smart. Poor Toro isn't.
Yeah, I know, but how... yeah, I guess. They set him up to be super dumb.
Well, the one thing that I did like is that, Toro asks, oh, how can we be sure this is the Mando who's in trouble, who's got a price on his head? And Fennec says he has a target with him. Some say it's a child. And, of course, earlier when Fennec pulled up, brought the speeder bikes to Mando, he saw Twoda there with Peli Moto. And so he could put 2 and 2 together and then decides, okay, I'm going to do it. Now, for me, because
he puts 2 and 2 together there, but not. I don't know. They're setting him up to put 2 and 2 together as 6.7. That's the way this character is set up. You're asking him to make logical leaps for some things, and in other cases, making him so dumb.
Well, how about Fennec? Not only, if she had known that this was the type of kid this guy was, she also kept pointing to her own demise. She's like, listen, you want to be a bounty hunter. Make the best deal for yourself and survive. And he's like, oh, okay. Eat blaster. Eat lead. I love it.
Another thing they set up here that was interesting was with bounties, even with Twoda, with bounties, there seems to be a preferably alive but dead if necessary, especially with things that are dangerous. And Fennec is clearly dangerous. So I'm sure the bounty would have been, maybe twice as much alive, but there still would have been a bounty of dead. But both of them acted as if there was no bounty if she was dead, which doesn't make sense either.
Thank you, Catfish. Why not bring that dead body back and claim your reward? He had a speeder bike. Mando has a do-back. Cha-ching.
Well, that's the thing. They set this up. Mando's like, make sure she stays alive. We need her alive. It doesn't. That's the only reasoning could be like, this bounty is only good if she's alive, which makes no sense for someone dangerous like her. You want to get rid of her? Sure, you'd like to have her, but the most important thing is that she's dead. So that doesn't make sense when you analyze it either.
No, it doesn't. Mando rides his slow but steady do-back all the way back to Mos Eisley. He gets to the hangar, sees Toro's speeder bike there. He draws his gun, walks in, and we have a classic standoff. Mando uses a flash grenade again, gets the drop. He shoots this bounty hunter while the bounty hunter is holding Baby Yoda. Whoa, what if you missed? Whoa.
Oh, my goodness.
Toro falls down off that ramp, and Baby Yoda kind of disappears, and you're like, oh, did he just crush Baby Yoda to death as he fell to his death?
I know. I was so worried about Baby Twoda.
Baby Twoda doesn't need any help. He's fine. Hey, I'm here behind the crate.
Yeah.
Cooing sounds.
Oh, man. And then we flash to the end.
Right. So Razor Crest flies away. The episode cuts to black. I am so frustrated. I'm like, oh, boy, that really wasn't very good. And then I get 13 seconds. 13 seconds of something that makes me go, hello. Now, earlier, Fennec had meant that, hey, listen, if you let me go, Toro, the young bounty hunter, we can meet my rendezvous in Mos Espa. Now, Mos Espa is the town that was actually featured in The Phantom Menace. So even though Tatooine's supposed to be out in the middle of nowhere, there's nothing there. It apparently has two big towns, Mos Eisley, the one in New Hope, and the one with the pod racing, and the one where little Annie was a slave, Mos Espa. And is this person who came out to her body, the person who was supposed to rendezvous with her in Mos Espa, who could this person be? Let's get to the debate. Number one, we know that Giancarlo Esposito, a.k.a. Breaking Bad's Gus the Chicken Man, and a million other things, he's a great actor. We know he's coming in the series. Could it be him?
It could be him, but why can't it be the client?
Why can't it be the client, Werner Herzog? That's a great point. Why isn't he there? I love it. How about we know comedian Bill Burr's going to show up as a bounty hunter at one point? Could it be him? People who love these cartoons, and once again, Dave Filoni, the writer and director of this specific episode, and he directed Chapter 1, as well, people were wondering, well, what if it's one of his smuggler, scoundrel-type characters, Cad Bane? Because Cad Bane, the animated character, kind of wears something that would look a bit like a cape in a shot. But the number one, wait a minute, could it be, people are wondering, is could this mysterious figure be Boba Fett? Could Boba Fett be alive out of the Sarlacc pit and coming into the show? What are the reasons people are jumping to this conclusion? One, the last time we saw Boba Fett, he was being eaten by the Sarlacc, but he was on Tatooine, this specific planet. Boba was the first person, besides Darth Vader, who we really saw wear a cape like this. And so we saw this shadowy figure was wearing a cape, and so you go, The figure also featured what sounded like stirrups jangling as he walked. There are a little jangle, little jingle with every step.
I watched it like 2 or 3 times because I saw your tweet about being excited about the last 13 seconds. So I kept watching it to figure out why you were excited. So
people say that if you watch Empire Strikes Back, in one of those scenes where Boba Fett steps into frame, you hear that same jangle with steps, as if he's wearing stirrups, as if he's wearing spurs on his shoes. So Boba Fett, what's another reason it could be Boba Fett? Well, the biggest reason is that's what Jon Favreau wanted to do. Jon Favreau wanted to make a Boba Fett series. The producers at Star Wars said no. One of the reasons it seems like they said no is because they were going to set up a Boba Fett standalone movie, just like we had the Solo standalone Star Wars story. They were going to have a Boba Fett standalone story directed by the person who directed that movie Logan, the last movie in the Wolverine series of Marvel X-Men. And he was going to do a Boba Fett movie because Solo came out and didn't do as well as the box office. A lot of those films got cut. And so maybe the parent company was thinking, well, we were going to do something with Boba Fett. You want to do something with Boba Fett? Here, you can use him for something. Could it be a classic character coming into the show? Whew, that would be exciting. That got me excited. But of course, we have no idea.
So that is, I was still wondering why, because I didn't recognize who it was, and I thought, is this somebody from the world that I don't know? And so that's the only reason that makes sense now that you're excited. I don't know why. I mean, Boba Fett has such an outsized presence for his participation in the universe so far.
He sure does. He really does.
I mean, he might overwhelm this, but also as someone who's a more casual fan, I'm like, and so what? We're telling this own story here. I don't. To me, even if it's Boba Fett, I'm not that excited, and my guess is it's probably not Boba Fett. So, I mean, if it's Boba Fett, I guess everyone will be excited, but then this becomes a lopsided story because, like I said, Boba Fett means so much. To sort of drop him in here feels like it will kind of overwhelm things a little bit.
Well, Catfish, I'm with you. I don't think it'll be Boba Fett, but the fact that it was a possibility and the fact that it really seemed to be the only thing I could sink my teeth into in this cotton candy of an episode, it did get me excited. It did actually boost my score up from a 5 to a 6. So it did work for me, even if it does turn out to be a different character.
Then I think that you're going to be bitter and you're going to rate the next episode lower when you find out that it's not Boba Fett.
Right. When I find out that it's Bill Burr, I'll be like, oh, come on. Well, listeners, tell us what you think. Who cares what we think? We always want to know what you think. Reach out to us at PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ. Wow.
Nice.
So why don't we get to some of that great listener feedback, Catfish, if you're ready.
Let's do it.
And the first thing we're going to talk about is the infamous Nephew Paul debate that is happening with our Double L loyal listeners out there. Now, some people really love Nephew Paul's moments on the podcast. Holly at Hunt Pants on Twitter, she tweeted out, "I don't want to rank this series too soon, but I think I would rank Paul's quote-unquote satire, or as I like to think of it, really good fanfic, above the prequels." So that is a positive Nephew Paul comment. We have
That's a positive review. Okay. All right.
Dwayne on Facebook who said,
Right.
"Hey guys, your Mandalorian podcast is pretty good. It would be even better if you would stop the 13-year-old kid bit. Maybe it's just me, but every episode I stop listening when that part starts." Ouch. So that's a
All right. So now wait, hold on. So now we've got pro Paul, anti Paul. Yep. Do we have someone to break the tie?
Well, we've had a lot of people on both sides, but my favorite one has been Grumpy Gobert came to our Facebook page, facebook.com/PHQ, and he wrote, "Wait, Nephew Paul's a real person? I seriously thought that was just Catfish doing a character."
Oh, man, I wish it had been me. That would be amazing.
I wrote back and said, Catfish's character work isn't that good.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'm kidding.
Jealous.
Now, we did get some feedback from a wonderful Double L, one of my favorite Double L's of all, Amy, who's at Amy Home Alone on Twitter. What did she write, Catfish?
She said, "Did at CJJman67 get a new mic? Sounding crystal clear." Ooh. Hey, I listened to it. I was very excited. No, I did. I've had the same old mic that was supposed to be great, but that sounded crappy. But now I'm recording audio and sending it to Double PHQ headquarters, where we have people working the soundboards and
those poor
syncing
interns.
it up. Yeah, I know, and they're really doing a good job. So thank you for noticing. Grumpy Gobert also gave us more feedback. He said, "I really liked episode 4. It had a really nice Firefly feel to it. It was a little weird to see Mando expose himself to the neighborhood children like that." Hey. Helmet on, buddy. Whoa. Exposure.
Mando exposing himself to children. Boy, we got to go rank chapter 4 lower than we did last week, Catfish.
Oh, man, yeah. No, Atris Marcellus said he would give this episode 4 7 rusty ATST tripped over in a krill pond. And then he said his 4th episode is the weakest so far. Very cute Baby Yoda. He says that's what 99% of people are calling us. But Atris, when you refer to him, please. Twota. We're trying to get that going. People be like, Twota, that's amazing. Where did that happen? Oh, the Parsec Passion podcast. And all of a sudden,
Cha-ching.
We're huge. Exactly.
So we love all your feedback. Those were some feedbacks on Chapter 4. Let us know what you think of Chapter 5. But also, if you watch Chapter 6 on a Friday, shoot out your thoughts immediately, and we'll read them on the podcast. Now, this last bit of feedback we got is from another great Double L loyal listener, Pat Man, at PatMan23 on Twitter. And he said he liked that last episode of the Mando even better than we did. And he said, 7 out of 10 rating, Catfish, how dare you?
He didn't say Catfish, how dare you?
He does. He did.
Okay, all right, sorry.
Now, we have been talking since our preview podcast about where is your Star Wars movie ranking? Where would you rank it? Mm-hmm. Where would you rank all the Star Wars films? And then last week we said, well, if you would put the Mando, what we'd seen so far, rank them in the Star Wars films, where would they go? So here is Pat Man's list, and I love it. He starts off with number 1, Star Wars. And he says, I'll agree that Empire is possibly the better movie by several metrics, particularly story-wise. But I give extra points to the original movie where Han shot first for paving the way. So his number 1 is Star Wars A New Hope. What's his number 2, Catfish?
Empire Strikes Back, which should have been number 1. And then he says we won't like the next ones, so then I'm not going to say them.
Okay,
okay. So he says Last Jedi. He feels it's the most significant movie of the later trilogy and extremely well realized. The Force Awakens. Next, he says it's much more than a retread of Star Wars. Then Revenge of the Sith. Oh, my goodness.
Number 5. Good work.
He said it's the most important of the prequel trilogy. It had to nail Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader, and I felt that it did. You know what? I think we can agree to agree that the prequel trilogy was crap. Then Return of the Jedi. He said he put this low because he said it thought it was selling me on the redemption of Darth Vader, but that was all hollow. Ooh. He said Vader earning points for saving Luke was not all that different from Anakin's motivation in killing children in service of saving Padme. There's a lot of great stuff in Return of the Jedi, which is elevated above the prequels correctly. And then he said things are complicated. He said 7 Solo, perfectly enjoyable heist movie with double-crossing characters, which I agreed. Attack of the Clones, Rogue One. They needed to retool some of the stuff between Acts 2 and 3.
Wow.
Yeah. He said if we're looking at big picture stuff, Rogue One is not necessarily essential viewing. Then The Phantom Menace, a movie that doesn't need to be seen, really. It's still watchable, though. And that's what he said. He said this list is not presented as an opening for debate. Anyone wishing to do so must first acknowledge that movie rankings are subjective, and I know my preference is better than you do. Patman with a little bit of a sweep, little bit of a back off from Patman. I appreciate his thoughts.
Catfish, I love that he says, I know my preference is better than anybody else, is what he's saying. But I wonder if Mrs. Patman feels that way.
Yeah.
We need Lisa on to set him straight.
Yeah, we definitely do, because also he needed to be set straight by Ms. Patman and myself on the helmet on, helmet off debate. Because Patman is denying me the eye candy that I deserve. That's right. As a man, I deserve some male eye candy, and I want it.
All right, Catfish, it's time for our segments. You've hinted that you have a really fun Mandalicious line of the episode. What is it?
Well, it is when, near the end, when Mando is up against a wall, not literally, but figuratively, in the hangar, squaring off against Toro, and Pelmoto comes up to him and says, "You're smarter than you look," which is clearly a diss in my mind. So that's my Mandalicious line of the week. You're smarter than you look. I mean,
Catfish, that was mine too. So good.
Oh no, so good. I make sure not to say it through the rest of the episode. So we agree the Mandalicious line, "You're smarter than you look." There was not a whole lot this week, but that's it.
You know what? It would have been great if he had taken off the helmet. She saw his actual face and then went, "No, you're just as dumb as you look."
All right,
so
you pitched a Grief's Beef.
I did. I pitched a couple, but I actually have the real Grief Beef of the episode.
Oh, you were just teasing us before. Those were mini Grief's Beef.
When I have a favorite establishment, I like to go in there and relax, and I like things to be the same. Mm-hmm. When I used to visit this Mos Eisley Cantina, it'd be fun. It'd be packed with interesting people. Mm-hmm. There'd be occasionally some violence to get me excited, people shooting first, arms being lost, and there was always great music. You know, do-do-do-do-do-do-do. It was the greatest spot in all the Outer Rim for those afternoon happy hours. But now that it's under new management, that place is dead. Where's the music? Where's the fun? It's filled with one single D-bag taking up my favorite booth. 1 star. That's right, 1-star Yelp review for the new Mos Eisley Cantina. That's my Grief's Beef of the episode.
No, I think that's a pretty good one. I mean, it went from Scum and Villainy to Numb and Civility. So I agree with that. But my Grief's Beef of the week is this side quest business. I'm done with side quests. I'm hopeful that the end of this episode means we're going to have sort of an overarching arc, and that the Mandalorian is going to be like, all right, I need to figure some stuff out here because this is not working.
My good grief of this episode is all the listeners who made it to the end of this podcast. We've gone long.
I love it.
We're always longer than the actual episode, so we thank you so much. We need your reviews. We need your feedback. Leave something, and we will be giving away a prize in just 3 simple weeks, Catfish. This is insane.
Oh, man, that is amazing. And speaking of the prize, we all know what the prize is going to relate to. And until further notice, I'm going to keep repeating it. My good grief is Twota. Twota is just... Twota gets the good grief MVP of the first season. There's no doubt about it. Everyone is talking about how cute it is. People who have hearts of stone have found that stone replaced with a GIF of Baby Yoda sipping tea, bone broth, and so it's Twoda until further notice.
Man, I love it. For everybody here at Double P Media, at Double PHQ, my name's Bubba, and you can insult me online at fitandtrim.com. That's FITTENTRIM at fitandtrim.com.
And my name is Catfish. If you want to tell me what I'm wrong about, you can hit me up at CJGman67. The main account to tweet, to talk about, to get us some good money, at Double PHQ. You can always respond there.
I want to apologize to the Nephew Paul fans. Nephew Paul is with his father this weekend, and he's doing a school play. He's doing the Nutcracker at his middle school, so I'm not sure I'll have any time to record him and get him into the podcast. Apologies to the people who love Nephew Paul.
And a treat to those who don't.
Right, exactly.
All right, and we will talk to you next week on
Parsec Passion. All right, Fennec was supposed to meet me in Mos Espa, but she's not here. I'll just follow this tracking fob to... Oh, crap, she's dead. What the hell? I came all the way out here and she's dead. There's not any lights. They got a couple of moons, but it's not bright. Come on. What's this smell? This smell... The person who killed her was wearing Drakkar Noir? What's going on?
Oh, damn it. That means Toro is dead. He's the only one who still wears Drakkar Noir.
We love Toro.
Now that he's dead.
All right, ready to stop recording?
Yep.
3, 2, 1...